You're tuned into SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
Hit the lights. It's Sunday night. Welcome to SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network and proudly presented by Hewitt Damaduras Law, HDLawSC.com. It's family at Hewitt Damaduras Law. They're on your team. Brad and Dean want to talk to you. They want to be a part of your journey, and they want to win you some money. If you have an insurance claim or a dog bite, or you fell down some stairs, any personal injury, really, call them or go to HDLawSC.com. They are on your team, and we are on the SEC's team as we tune in, Craig, to the tournament. First of all, my friend, how's it going? I'm Rob Williams. He is Craig McMichael, as always. How's your bracket doing? Let's start there and give it just a peek. We don't have a ton of time to get into you making excuses for why you're towards the bottom of the group. But
so here's the thing. The great Ricky Bobby said, "If you're not first, you're last." I'm not first, but here's who I am not. Here's who I am above, Mr. JC Sherbert. So don't be calling me out, sir, on Friday when I am dead last, because you, sir, are below me. So. Good day to you, sir. I owe you a Chicago dog.
The trash talk across shows is here, and if you did not tune in to Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show or the show on Friday, I'll catch you up. Craig was in dead last across the group of
is that bad?
Of hosts and fans and everybody else. So we're doing great. I'm somewhere in the middle of the pack, but let's talk about scores that actually matter. It's time for our scores around the league. First and foremost, the SEC was 11-4 in the tournament going into today. So 4 opportunities existed today for Kentucky, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama. Kentucky has already lost, and so that'll take it to 11-5. Florida is in quite a battle right now. Tennessee is up by 5 currently towards the end of that game as well. And then we have Alabama coming up in just a few minutes here, Craig. So we will keep our eyes peeled on that, but a pretty good showing for the SEC so far, you know, in a year when everybody wanted to talk about how the league was down. And we said, there's no way it could compete with last year. Historic numbers last year for this league in basketball for any conference. And so it was down relative to last year, but maybe not relative to the rest of the country. What you got?
Do we know what time Georgia starts? Because I don't know if they showed up or not Thursday night.
Take a shot at your own beat there.
You know what? If the shoe fits, like
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robbie Avila, and St. Louis took care of business. That was
embarrassing. That was embarrassing.
No
you had players talking about, well, we just didn't get off the bus. We weren't ready. How the heck are you not ready to get off the bus? You got joked by Ole Miss in the tournament, and then you don't even bother showing up. I mean, that's just sad. And then you had our good friends in Mizzou basically playing a home match, also hurting themselves. So frustrating, disappointing, but I think we're in a pretty good spot. Arkansas, we'll see.
We've been hot on Arkansas all year. What they do. A little bit of a struggle with High Point, but got the job done. And Cal has the boys in the Sweet 16 again. So we'll see. Acuff, I think, is still the best player in this tournament remaining, and I'm interested to see if he's going to be enough to carry them. As we look at baseball, a couple of quick notes here. Ole Miss over Kentucky in the series this weekend. Oklahoma gets it done against LSU. Mississippi State sweeps Vandy. Georgia and Texas A&M. Georgia
real quick. Shout out to Mississippi State. Another sellout. They now own the top 25 sellout records in the NCAA. So shout out to Hail State. We don't always give them enough love on here. So see, buddy, I'm willing to rip my own beat, but I'm also willing to build a bridge. That's what I do for us. I build bridges here, Rob.
All right. I like it. I like it. Florida swept by Alabama. Missouri gets one on Friday night in game 1 against Tennessee, but Tennessee takes the remaining 2 games. And then the Arkansas-South Carolina series is probably the most interesting series to me over the course of the weekend, even though Auburn and Texas was a top 5 matchup. Arkansas beat South Carolina 22-6 in 7 innings on Friday night. The 4th inning alone was absolutely astounding for what the Razorbacks were able to do there. And then Saturday morning, South Carolina parted ways with head coach Paul Maneri and was one errant throw in the 9th inning away from getting the Hogs on Saturday, and then got them 9-4 today. So a complete switch of energy and momentum in Columbia. We'll see if that continues under Monty Lee's leadership, but the active wins leader in college baseball is no longer active in Paul Maneri, as he is no longer the coach in Columbia. Okay, so those are your news and notes from baseball and from basketball. To monitor the women's tournament as well, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But before we do, I want to bring in our first guest tonight, Ali Wilbur, here with us to talk about the Florida Gators. It has been a fun ride around the SEC so far, Craig. We've been through about a quarter of the league now, and we want to welcome Ali in as we talk Gators, not just football. We want to note, obviously, a 1 seed Gators men's basketball team is playing right now while we're on the air. And a shout out to that gymnastics team for winning the SEC championship yesterday as well. Ali, how are you? What's going on? I'm
doing well. I'm doing really well. And yeah, that women's gymnastics, I don't know if you guys watch gymnastics, but I have 4 daughters that all compete at gymnastics at various levels. And so we are always like locked in. We have season tickets. This is it. And this team has kind of underperformed at parts at the beginning of this season. And I think, peaking at exactly the right time. So cool. And it was basically a walk-off 10 to win it, which is also, just absolutely wild in an event that Selena has not gotten a 10 in before. So huge, very cool.
Yeah, my oldest daughter is 4 and practices her floor routines around in the living room often. And after last season, when she really started watching, she would end a lot of them with the Gator jump. So not sure how I feel about that in my house, but we'll let it slide. We'll let it slide for now. Tied game here, 20 seconds left in the first half as Florida looks to gather themselves and head into the second half against Iowa. Really quickly, what's the buzz around the tournament in Gator territory? What's the expectation? Going back to back is a tough thing to do.
It is.
And this is a completely different team, but there's a lot of talent here, and Golden is confident.
Yeah, credit to Todd Golden, because it is a completely rebuilt team, essentially. And I really do think that it's Final Four or bust. Like, if they don't make the Final Four, I think people are going to think that that's a disappointment. They're on the ropes right now. I had somebody on a week ago who told me that Iowa was one of the toughest potential matchups that they would really look to slow the game down. And they have so far. And so Florida's going to have to, have a halftime speech that really just, lights this team on fire and brings them out. I was surprised that the double technicals haven't kind of lit more of a fire, and maybe they'll get into that at halftime, and that'll be the spark. But they gotta get pounced around to 32 before they worry about the Final Four. But I do think that's the expectation, is the Final Four or bust.
Yeah, it's 33-31 here now as we're officially at halftime. Iowa with the 2-point lead, and we'll continue to monitor that as we're on the air for the rest of the night. But we're here to talk football, because although everything else is important, we know that football is king. Mm-hmm. And you had a conversation with John Summerall just a few weeks ago that we want to get into just a little bit. Great job with that interview. And he said all kind of stuff, right? Like, we got a full display of who he is and what his expectations are. I feel like we were able to, he's really put himself out there with a lot of people, and we've gotten to know him so much. So we have a fun segment that we do here each week with Casey Cregan, the producer of the Message Board Genius podcast, where we read some message boards and kind of laugh at the passion of the SEC fans. And one fan just a couple weeks ago said that they needed to block him from being on any other shows because he's going to lose his voice before the season. So
I saw that. I'm pretty sure he eats gravel for breakfast, and that is where this has come from. But every interview I've ever seen dating back years sounds like that. So I'm pretty sure it's not because he went on a little car wash for Florida. But I did find that amusing.
When you look at the coaching staff, each week we kind of look at three major concepts with different programs, and with a team like Florida, obviously it's a new group in terms of the staff. So when I asked the question of which coaching staff addition or subtraction do you think is the biggest move here, there's a lot more to choose from than maybe say somebody like a Mississippi State that we talked about a few weeks ago, where there's a couple of changes that are kind of more under the radar. I would love to hear your thoughts on John Summerall in general, but maybe outside of that and outside of Buster Faulkner for the time being, because I know Craig's going to get there. Are there moves that stick out to you on this staff that are maybe head and shoulders above the rest? Like this was a need and he nailed it there.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think John Summerall is just racking up points left and right with Gator fans. And here's the reality. That counts for about 20% of the equation. 80% of the equation is going to be winning. And you could be the most likable guy in the room, the most down-to-earth guy in the room, the most real guy in the room. And at the end of the day, if you don't win, that's not going to save your job. But I do think that people knowing you is a form of a currency, so to speak. Yep. And so, when the chips are down, which Florida's not going to go undefeated next year, there will be losses. I do think having a little bit of, love from the fan base pays off. They feel like they know you. It's a lot harder to get mad at Allie's dad than it is, Coach Peak, who I've never had a conversation with. And I think that's kind of a key difference between him and Coach Napier. Nobody got to get closer than an arm's length to Coach Napier. Nobody knew anything about him. And it did make it easier to be okay with him leaving. There was no real love lost there. It was somebody we never got to know. And I think Summerall's doing that differently. As far as hires go, and I will preface this with, I am completely biased, but Phil Troutwine, I think, is probably the most pivotal hire for assistants. He played with my husband in college. They won a national title in 2006. Phil won one in 2008 as well. My husband was gone at that point. But I am a huge fan of bringing back former players when it makes sense. And I think it makes sense in Phil's case. He was one of the best offensive line coaches in the entire country. This isn't just throwing a former player a bone. This is a guy who's incredibly good at his job. And Florida has been basically mediocre to bad offensive line for more than a decade, probably. At this point, they haven't landed a 5-star. It's probably been 10 years. When I think back to really good offensive lines, I'm literally thinking back to 2008. It's been a very long time. And that's been a big part of Florida's issues. So I think getting him, a guy that knows what the standard is because he played for the last 2 national title teams, was smart. And then from there, Jonathan Galante, special teams. I don't know how much you know about me, but special teams is my bag. I have been so frustrated the last 4 years. We couldn't even get the right number of men on the field. Like, somebody sent me a shirt that said, we sometimes almost always have 11 men on the field. And it's literally the case. Like, there is less games in Billy Napier's tenure where he had the correct number of men on the field for every down of the game than there were games where he had at least one time where they sent the wrong men out. They did not have a special teams coach or a strength coach or somebody who was responsible for counting the number of men that would go out on the field during game day, which is, if you know anything about special teams, a complete oddity. They practiced it at the end of practice. Guys didn't want to play it, and more importantly, weren't forced to play it. And it was just a complete train wreck. But it's a third of the game. And if you're not going to be great on offense and defense, which Florida hasn't been the last 4 years, sure as hell better be good on special teams. And we weren't good there either. So this is a welcome change.
And I think that's the biggest thing I've seen from Coach Summerall from the time he's been there. One, he's very personable. You did a great job with that interview. But I love how often we're seeing him even at the Gators basketball games, whether they're the home games or the playoff games. He's making himself known. Where even as a guy who covers Georgia, there's some excitement about what's going on with the Gators. I do have to ask though, one of the downfalls of Billy Napier was the quarterback position. And
Mm-hmm.
if we go to look to the roster, that is my biggest question for Florida. Like I am all in on John Summerall. Like, give me some of that. But again, we look at the quarterback. We've got Philo coming in from Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know much about him. And if we know something about Florida, is like, you got to get the quarterback right. So what, give us a little insights there to maybe like make Georgia maybe a little bit nervous about, what does that quarterback situation look like? And why should Florida fans be trust Summerall, trust Buster?
Well, I think it's in Buster and Summerall's best interest to run a real quarterback competition, right? I don't think that they will hand the job to Philo. I think that he will have to battle with Jones, and the best guy will be the starter. I think Jones was very good in very limited snaps last season, and that has Gator fans excited. And I think that's the same thing when you look at tape from Philo, is that Florida fans look back and they're like, man, in the few reps he got, he was great. And the biggest Achilles heel is going to be youth. There's, I want to say it's like 75 snaps between all three guys that, in theory are battling. And I don't think Will Griffin is battling. I think he will be, the number 3 guy there. But, it is youth and inexperience, but it's probably the best wide receiver room in the country, maybe top 3, if not the best. I think people are really confident with what's going to happen with the offensive line. And they've got maybe the single best running back in the country in Jaden Baugh coming back. And so I honestly think as long as you can be a game manager, like I think back to those mid 2000s Alabama teams like AJ McCarron and guys like that, they had a game manager. They didn't need somebody to go out there and win the game for them. They were surrounded with talent. They just needed somebody to not lose the game. And that's why even though I don't know who's going to win it and I am nervous about lack of experience, I do feel like as long as it's somebody who can take care of the football, I don't know that they need to be asked to do a whole lot.
Ali, when you look at the offensive system that's going to be put into place here, JC Sherbert here on Chief Sports Network has said, and with Inside the Gamecocks has said many times, just looking at Florida, when they've had success across their history, the most offensive success obviously has been with Spurrier and with Urban Meyer. And those offenses were a little more high flying than what we've seen with Billy Napier, right? Like,
yeah.
And over the course of time, it looks like Florida needs that type of offense in order to be successful. And that makes sense to me because there's so much athleticism and speed within the state. If you can maximize that, then it works really well. My concern going into the year is, how does Buster Faulkner transition from what they were doing at Georgia Tech? I talked to a Florida contact who spoke to Buster, and he said that they're going to quote unquote sling it. Is that something that you're hearing as well? And you think that they're going to open this up?
Summerall in his opening press conference said, I want to score a whole bunch of points. And I know that Florida fans aren't happy unless we're scoring a whole bunch of points. And so I think, first of all, he acknowledged that that's the case, which is better than we had the previous 4 years. But yeah, Florida fans want fireworks. And from what I've been told, so does Faulkner, so does Summerall. I think the thing that makes me excited about Faulkner is that his scheme has been a little bit different everywhere that he is. And that makes me feel like he adapts to the personnel he has. And, Urban Meyer will tell a story about being at Florida that first year, 2005, they lost to Alabama. And I remember this game because my husband called me and was like, I don't want to see anybody. That includes you. He sat in the stadium for 5 hours afterwards because he was so upset that they had lost. Well, that same night, Urban had Dan Mullen and Billy Gonzalez and Steve Adazio, and they all went to his house and stayed up all night long and adjusted their system because they realized that they were running the scheme they wanted to run, ideally, not running the scheme that fit the talent that they had at the time. And so they adapted, and that is why Florida ended up, finishing 2005 strong and then winning the national title in 2006. And so I do think that that's very similar to Faulkner's philosophy, is just like, okay, who do I have? How do I tailor the system to it? How can I emphasize explosiveness? He did get some Georgia Tech transfers to follow him. I think that's smart. That's familiarity. And honestly, from what I'm hearing behind closed doors, they feel like they will be lucky if they keep him for 2 seasons and think that it's actually a possibility he may only be there 1. And, if that's the case, then that means Florida won a lot of games and put up a lot of points, this upcoming season. And so I don't think that that's the worst case scenario. I think that's why Joe Craddock was brought over from Tulane and made the quarterbacks coach, is that okay, if he can learn under him for a couple years, maybe he'll be ready to be the OC at a higher level. he already was the OC at Tulane, obviously.
Wait, are you saying Buster's coming back to Athens? Because I'm going to be really excited if that's the case.
Do you think Kirby's retiring in a year or two? Because
the
only way he goes anywhere is to be a head coach. But I don't think he will be the OC in Athens anytime soon.
I don't either. Rob knows I've been a huge fan of what Buster's done.
He's been trying to reel him in and kick Mike Bobo to the curb for years.
Isn't this the second time y'all had Mike Bobo? Because I feel like there were years ago I was in a Florida-Georgia game and they were chanting "Fire Mike Bobo," and that was like 20 years ago. So
he got the memo last year. He ran the damn ball last year, so I've got to give him some credit.
Can't blame him too much.
I can't blame him. I still will, but I can't blame him as much. So.
Ali, when you look at the roster, you mentioned a lot of offensive guys. What sticks out to you about this defense? That obviously, when you have a coaching change, you mentioned 5 guys coming over with Faulkner from Georgia Tech. There's a lot of change on the roster. They were able to hold a lot of the offense together in terms of J-Paul and a lot of these receivers, and then adding Singleton to the mix is a big thing as well. But then I look at the other side of the ball, and we know it's still the SEC, and you're going to have to be able to perform and be balanced. You mentioned special teams. We haven't really talked about the defense all that much. What are your thoughts there in terms of what's this going to look like under Summerall?
So I think the defense is kind of interesting because you have guys like Jaden Woods, LJ McCray, Miles Graham that are coming back that are really like huge pieces to the puzzle, have a lot of experience, are really, really talented. And then I feel like there's a ton of unknowns. So, I think your top end talent really is top end in the conference, but there's a lot of question marks. I think Cormani McLean is somebody that really needs to have a breakout year. This is a former 5-star guy who I think was good last year, but like needs to take on a leadership role, needs to really kind of live up to that 5-star hype. I'm interested in the secondary. I just think that there's going to be a lot of new pieces and a lot of kind of unknowns there. And same thing with defensive line. So I think the defense could be really good. The top end talent is some of the best in the conference, but it is going to really be, up to White and Summerall, I think, to an extent, because I'm sure he will have his hand in the defense too, in what this defense kind of looks like.
Okay. Last question. We'll get you out of here. And this is our question for everybody, and it's probably the most fun. And we will have fun with it after you're gone because we're going to pick the schedule here at the end of the show. But you tell us, is there a number of wins that Summerall needs in year one for everybody around Gainesville to say this year was a success? What is that number in your head?
I think it's 8. And I think that's doable when you look at what the schedule is. It's easier than it's been the last couple of years. You're facing some teams with either new coaches or new pieces or both. And I think the number is 8. And if you get 8, people are pretty fired up to come back the second year. I think it's if you lose less than that, or excuse me, you lose more than that, then what you lost some games that you probably should have won. And I think that's been Florida's biggest complaints. It's never been the last 4 years losing the games that you were an underdog in. It was losing the games that you should have won. Like Florida should never lose to Kentucky. Florida should never lose to Mississippi State. Florida should never lose to USF. Like there are just things that have happened the last few years that I don't feel like we were prepared for, and you shouldn't drop those games. And I think that's going to be the big thing. You look at the toss-ups, like Florida loses to Oklahoma. I don't think anybody's like, man, damn, how dare you lose to Oklahoma? Even like an Ole Miss, you lose to Ole Miss, nobody's going to say anything. Now you lose to Florida State, who is like on life support, it's a problem. If you, you lose to FAU, God forbid, at the beginning of the year or something like that, it's a problem. But really, if you win the games you're supposed to win, you should win at least 8. And I think he's gold at that point.
It's a good number. That's a good number. I like that number.
Yeah, he's foreshadowing. I've seen his pick. All right, Ali, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Ali.
We appreciate you.
No problem, guys. This was fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks. You have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
SEC Sunday Night. It's 8:24 here on a Sunday night, and we will be right back after this.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us, and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawse.com. hdlawse.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team.
This is SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome back to SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network. We are now joined by the esteemed and award-winning, talented, multifaceted, trophy-wielding, silky smooth tones of the Message Board Genius podcast. Producer extraordinaire Casey Cregan is with us. His mic is apparently not. So thank you for moving that over so that we can hear you when you talk. I would make a note here that Tennessee is up 2 with about 30 seconds left in the ball game, and we're looking to see the ball goes out of bounds, and it will be Tennessee ball up 73-71 over Virginia with 27.6 seconds remaining. We're in official review. Somebody text who's and check on him as we get ready.
He's fine.
Casey.
He's good. Very
I'm
relaxed.
so torn. I got to be honest. I am so torn. Everyone and their mother knows, because anyone within earshot knows that Rick Barnes is one of my favorite humans, let alone basketball coaches on the planet. And Who's is one of my dear friends. So I don't know who to root for here.
Ricky B might go on to see weekend number 2.
I mean,
Well,
that's not the problem. It's
good
getting
for the league,
past.
boys.
I know.
It's good for the league. All right, Casey. We've got quite a few here for you tonight, so let's just jump in. And as always, Craig has thrown in something that's out of the SEC.
What are you talking about? I would not do that. It was all Casey.
Annoying. All right, I'm going to start with Auburn because we've had so much with them.
He's making me earn my trophies over here. MBG says, and the award for lamest fan base in college sports goes to, drum roll please, Auburn. And our friend here says, there is no doubt in my mind we are the lamest fan base in college sports. So are they the lamest fan base in all of college sports?
That's the headline. That's what I need to tweet. Is Auburn the lamest fan base in all of college sports? And you know what? And I should tag the Cranes.
Well, then the answer would definitely be yes. Then
just to see if we can get a response.
Wait, what time is it?
Yeah.
What time is it? Absolutely. Hey, shout out to them though. They got some people coming to the baseball games, their own little March Madness, and whatever's going on with their basketball team. Apparently, they're filling up like.
I will take a minute to shout out. I will take a minute to shout out Mike Morgan, who is on campus calling their game for ESPN in the NIT.
Very nice.
Our friend Mike Morgan, who is working and calling that game. So we love that for him. But yeah, I feel like this has become so commonplace. I didn't even introduce a segment for anybody who's new. Thousands of people out there watching. Somebody may have no clue what we're doing. It just means more. Genius. The fan bases of the SEC are passionate, and that's a nice way of saying it. And each week we want to bring Casey in to look at some of the things fans have said that may or may not be true. I don't think they're the lamest fan base in college sports. That's crazy.
Yes, absolutely.
No,
that
Duke
is
exists.
Crazy. That is crazy. I want to ask Jason
Duke
Brown
won today in the cross.
Does he think that Auburn is the lamest fan base? He's faced them before. No way. Okay. All right, Casey. We're just going to take a hard left. Actually, I have one more before we take this hard left. Go ahead.
All right. MBG says, what Georgia needs is a real sleaze ball. So our friend Golden Boy says, I, for one, am ready to kick CMW to the curb and bring in a sleazeball coach with a championship pedigree that can energize this languid program. He says, I mean, big time college athletics ain't Sunday school class anymore. You know, I had a question here before you guys dissect this one. Was college athletics a Sunday school class before?
That was exactly my thought. That was
Right?
exactly my thought. When was it? When has it not been a little sleazy at some level?
Never at Georgia. Georgia does things the right way, Rob.
Get
I
outta
don't know
here.
what you're doing in South Carolina or what you guys are doing in Clemson. Georgia is doing it the right way. Kirby Smart is there preaching patience, defensive driving, and he's just looking for that out of their basketball program. I have to ask my English major here though. Casey, what does languid mean? I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Yep.
Good work, Casey, on giving us the definition there.
You're welcome.
You know, I think there actually is a little bit of merit to this in that you can't hire choir boys across the board. I don't know that that's what they have, but I do think that everybody has to have a little bit of an edge to them. And I have seen situations at other schools where coaches have been hired that maybe played by the book a little more than others. And we know that we don't want to be the guy who is known for breaking the rules, but I think that every coach that cares more about winning than anything else is willing to bend them at least at times, maybe when nobody else is looking.
Is that why the Gamecocks got a new baseball coach this weekend?
We have already discussed that, Craig. Thank you for bringing that up, though.
And languid means a slow, relaxed, or weak state lacking energy, vigor, or spirit, often due to fatigue or heat.
So they're tired.
We
That
used to
Georgia
talk
Heat.
about like we need alacrity. That was our word in lacrosse. We used alacrity. We need some alacrity. We need some enthusiasm. We need some effort. So languid is the opposite. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr.
All right.
Cregan.
Let's do this.
Conjunction.
We have three here, Casey, because Kentucky went out of the tournament today. So let's go Lexington.
Did they? MBG
No.
says Kentucky needs to get rid of all of its coaches and players. Hashtag fire everybody. Who's this guy? Coach Ken Reeves says get a new coach and get rid of the entire roster. Clean house and start over. I wouldn't want anyone who's been polluted in this environment to come back. This is the dark days of UK basketball, and that includes the probation days. Ooh.
Speaking of which,
Wow.
Yeah. It looks like Tennessee's going to close it out, by the way. 75-71, 13 seconds left, and shooting free throws. So free throws and a couple of seconds away from Sweet 16 for Vol basketball. $22 million on a roster for Kentucky is kind of the eyesore that gets this whole thing, right? Like when most of the league was in the 7 to 10 range, there were some teams that were up in that 12 range. $22 million for this roster is just I think it's and it's Kentucky basketball, right? They don't want to ever see this. We'll continue.
Oh, here's I thought you didn't even change it. How about that? I'm slow. Bleed Blue 22 says, hear me out. With Mitch gone, would Cal come back? Hear me out. Give him head coach and AD in waiting title. He wins one last title, WON, last title, and then we find out our succession plan. So go backwards, 2 steps back to go forward.
I think you go like Eddie Money. I want to go back,
Go back.
and do it all over, but I can't go back.
Okay.
I know.
This is the third pair of headphones I've had to buy that you've blown out singing on this show.
You're welcome.
So please stop doing that. I don't think they
second
can.
Eddie Money reference too, by the way.
They cannot go back as much as they want to. They can't. That's not.
What
Gonna,
if they offer 2 tickets to paradise?
All right. Let's just read the last one before he takes us completely out of here.
That guy. Sorry for your partner here. Blue since 92 says, if it will help, I will personally fight every man, woman, and child who doesn't want Patino here from Capiluto on down. Sure, he's not a long-term solution, and he's got a speckled past, but our basketball program is bleeding out on the table while literally the best basketball mind still in the game would give his left nut to come here and win us another title or two on his way out. As if he can put St. John's into the top 10. As if he can put St. John's into the top 10, but couldn't win a ship at Kentucky with his eyes closed. Do the same thing already.
So who would you rather have, Pitino or Cal? And also, I don't know if I would be using that reference for Rick Pitino.
Yeah,
Who-
Just saying.
Yeah. All right, who are you picking? Because I think I'm going with, at this point, I think I'm going with Cal.
I'm going to go with the Armani suit. I'm going to go with
Casey
go
Braden's
with-
high.
I'm going with Pitino.
Yeah, it's Patino is the right answer.
He wins.
right.
He won at Providence. He won at St. John's. He won at Louisville.
One in the Knicks. Oh wait,
And again, it's not Sunday school, Rob. We want to win.
Speaking of Sunday school, Casey, I'm going to roll through these really quickly. I mentioned earlier that Darius Acuff is the best player left in the tournament. That's because BYU and AJ DeManza are no longer playing. Our friends at Brigham Young had a few words.
yeah. Saw 22 says, "Suck a duck." Only I didn't say fudge.
And one more.
Good heck.
Yep, they're struggling out there, guys. They
Who put
They
those
are
in?
pissed.
can't find
They
the
are
words.
Pissed.
Can't find the words at BYU. All right, Casey, I have one more thing for you before we end this segment. And I'm really excited to talk to Jason Brown here in just a few minutes, as we have fun during this segment every week. And we're going to have a really cool conversation with him coming up as well. But here's the deal. We had a no-hitter this weekend that stretched the pitcher out a little beyond what Craig believes is humane. Craig, is that a good word for it? Is that a good way of toning down your anger over
132 pitches? Is that
132
what we're talking about? 132
Yeah,
pitches
I was
in
just trying- I was just trying
March
to set it
20.
up. Go ahead
March
and rant,
21st.
and then let the baseball mind respond.
Yeah, okay. March 21st, but mind you, college baseball. Alabama throws 132 pitch complete game. So based on data from 2001 to 2025, Alex Cobb threw the most pitches at 131. Gavin Williams of the Cleveland Guardians last year pitched 126. Verlander threw 121, and Zach Luttrell threw 117. Yet a college kid who may be making some NIL money, but not MLB money, is going to throw 132 pitches in freaking March. That is asinine and insane, and by the way, stupid. They do not need it. Because this is what happens. These college managers just throw these guys until their arm is going to fall off. So maybe we need pitch counts. Maybe the NCAA should put in there. Maybe we got to limit it. Maybe we got to be like Little League. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old man yelling at clouds, but it's ridiculous.
I think you are an old man because I know I'm the last person, and literally I was doing it while you were ranting. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but math. I was doing a little math. Do you know what 139 into 132 is?
Tell us,
15?
It's right at 15. Do you know what a good efficient pitcher is known? Usually, you want to be at pitch count
21?
wise an inning.
21, 22.
15.
Yeah, 15. That's what I was about to say. They nailed it.
But do you need
He's
130?
under 15. 132 is no doubt about it, Craig. You hear 132 and a college kid, and you're like, "Oh my God, that's a ton of pitches." No doubt, no question. But if you break it down, he's under 15 pitches an inning. That's really efficient. I think he's good. March. I think it's week 5, week 6. They're stretched out into the beginning of the spring. I have no problem with 132. Now, if you're telling me 150, 165, then we're going to have a conversation. But 132 is okay.
I think that we need to, see more of this. Actually, maybe not 132, but I think that.
What's wrong with 132? If you want to see more of it, what's wrong with it?
I don't think that we need 132 every time a guy goes out there, but if they can throw that much, then we need to be able to look at it. The problem is the reason that we've seen pitch counts come down, obviously, over the years, is the velo has gone up. Everybody has Tommy John, and the action that we're getting in order to hit that velocity is putting a lot more strain on these guys' arms. And so as we've seen that go up, we've needed pitch counts to come down to keep guys healthy for longer. But if we can figure out a way for guys to do it safely, I think that there is something to be said for letting guys extend and push out a little bit like that. It gives me a little bit of an old school feel. And I think that there was some grit in the early 2000s when guys were throwing that many pitches and going out there and putting their junk on the table to go win it for their team that we kind of miss out on now because everybody has TJ when they're like freaking 17.
And I also think it's 9 innings. It's 9 innings. So if he went 132 and pitched 6 1/3, I think we have a problem there.
Yeah.
But he went 9 innings. So that's where the math comes in. Again, I think 132 is a staggering number to hear. But after 9 innings, I think with under 15 pitches, that's really good. I wish I had him.
All right, Craig, your closing statement, and then we have to go to break to get Jason in here.
I'm saying shut it down at 7 innings. You save another 30 pitches. It's okay. And again, because what I've heard on this show is all we got to win is 2 or 3 on the weekend. You were probably going to win Friday night, whether he threw 132 pitches or not. And if you want to play until mid or late June, maybe you could save those 30 pitches for June. I'm just saying.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair take too. I just don't think it's asinine, but I think what you have to say is fair, and I think that's a good place for us to put it. All right, it is 8:40 on SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chiefs Sports Network. Casey Cregan, we love you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
boys.
expertise. As always, we'll be right back
smooth
after this break.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawsc.com. hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team.
Oh, man. The building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete, recovering from injury, or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
Yo, what's up?
Baby, let's go.
This is SEC Sunday night on the Chiefs Sports Network.
On the Chiefs Sports Network, and I would like to note that since it is Florida night, Iowa pulling away a little bit here in the second half, 51-39 against the 1 seed Gators, as we see Tennessee close out their matchup with Virginia. We have now with us Jason Brown, former college quarterback at a few different stops, and we want to get into all of that, but for the intents and purposes of this show and this network, which is heavily based in the state of South Carolina, we will call him former South Carolina Gamecock quarterback Jason Brown. What's up, man? How's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing fantastic as we get an opportunity to watch ball all weekend and then come on here and talk about it. It's a blessing that we have the opportunities to do things like that. But I'm excited for the conversation with you. For those people who are out there listening, and there's thousands of people watching and listening to us right now, and several who will get it tomorrow on podcast as well. Talk a little bit about what your journey looked like, and tell us what your mindset was when you went in to school as a college athlete.
Man, one, I wasn't really recruited heavy out of high school. Had a few small FCS offers. I had one to Delaware State and one to St. Francis. Ended up going to St. Francis. Super, super small school. When I mean small, like we had 1,800 total students as a college, as a university. My high school had more than that. Like, um, went there. 2019 was the year I played right before COVID. Um, had a pretty good year. All American, honorable mention going into there or finishing that season. Um, COVID hits. Talked with my coach, my dad, family, all that. Ended up entering the portal. Only school that offered me was South Carolina. Ended up going to South Carolina. Loved it. Just my mindset going into that, and then coming into just going into college, like you mentioned earlier, was just to work as hard as I could. I knew that I would only have one opportunity at it. Um, so I just tried to make the most of it that I could. After South Carolina, um, had some success there. Towards the end of the year, portal happens. Spencer Rattler goes there. I'm not an idiot. I've had 1 year left. I was like, I'm gonna play my last year. He's coming in. He was a Heisman preseason finalist beforehand. Tremendous quarterback. I was like, at some point, I got to be real with myself too. I love South Carolina. I didn't want to leave, but at the time, with me only having 1 year left, I just wanted to play. So ended up leaving, going to Virginia Tech. Still ended up not playing. Um, Ended up getting an extra year. Went to Jackson State. Had some success there. Ended up um, meeting a lot of good people on the way though, man. It was a very tremendous experience. I know it NFL didn't happen, but that's life. Always got a backup plan.
As a South Carolina guy and covering the Gamecocks is something that I've done for a few years, but I'll out myself a little bit here on the show for those who may be new. Season tickets to South Carolina games have been in my family since the 1960s, and so
What?
that spin out and deep
I thought
ball.
you were a Clemson fan.
Yeah, right. That spin out and deep ball for a touchdown against Florida will live in my brain forever. I can see it. I can see it right now.
Yeah, that was a fun one, man. I remember that. It went cover 4. We switched up the play. The post was originally supposed to come from the outside. We ended up switching it up because they gave us a different variation of cover 4 that game. Ended up getting Josh open on that instead. Ended up just being a ball player, making a play at that point.
So talk to me a little bit about, being at 4 different schools. You have a unique perspective to be able to bring in what, the differences are at different levels, but also with different staffs, with different conferences, even at the Power 4 level, what is offered to an athlete from one school to the next. And really, Jason, kind of turning the page, I want to hear about some things that stuck out to you in terms of those differences, but really, how did you see any or if any of those schools help you prepare for the next steps? Because as you said, your story, like the majority of people, your playing days ended after your college career was done. So what did you see at those schools that kind of sticks out difference wise, and then anything that they did to help get you ready for life after football?
Yeah. Honestly, everywhere that I went academically put me in the best situation, whether it was whatever I wanted to do. I ended up switching my major my freshman year twice, I think, and they worked tremendously with me. I ended up getting to South Carolina, switching my major again. Um, you know, Ended up once I went to South Carolina or Virginia Tech, got into a master's program for a year, did that. Went to Jackson State, did another, there was everywhere that I went, it wasn't solely based on football, just because I knew that, I was always told NFL stands for not for long. And that's if you make it. And there's
Yep.
only a less than 2% chance to make it. So, there was always a backup plan. So I feel like everywhere that I went, the conversation was obviously football, but, and at some point you got to remember that you're also a student athlete, not just a football player.
What was that mindset for you? Like when you go to transfer in, you are the quarterback, right? So like you're a guy who can't hang out in the background, and you guys are going into winter workouts. You guys are going in or going into spring ball. what is that mentality? You know, what was that preparation that you sort of got yourself ready? Was it easier as you kind of moved around, or like what was different? You know, like can you kind of walk us through that mindset?
Yeah. Honestly, each spot was scary. Just because it was new. You know, getting to know an entirely new staff, entirely new, roster. You're living in a new state. You know, you're away from your family. You're doing it on your own, pretty much. So it was definitely scary, but um, just having the mindset of just, it's part of growing up, and just have to, at some point you got to do it, or else, I'm gonna be 45 and live with my dad still, and nobody wants that. I can't live with him for that long. I don't know if I could deal with him for that long, honestly.
What do you, when you look at life after the game, and then we'll get into kind of what's going on in the SEC in 2026, but when you look at transitioning out of your playing career into professional life, what is that turn like? We talk a lot here, Craig and I do, about from a standpoint of having been involved in athletics in multiple capacities. He's actually an athletic director in his full-time day job, and we've both coached. We've both been involved in the lives of young people for a really long time, and we always talk about developing the whole person, because for everybody, the game is going to end at some point, and you have to take the things that you've learned from the game and carry them into your life in one way or another. What has that transition been like from playing to professional life, and trying to figure out and grasp the aspirations that you have for the rest of your life? I feel like it's a concept that every single player goes through, regardless of what level it is, whether your career ends in high school, college, or professionally. At some point it's over and you have to move on to the next thing. And we just don't talk about that enough. And I would love to hear your perspective.
I would say it's a lot harder than you would expect. Um, just growing up when you're, playing collegiate, playing high school, whatever it is, whatever sport that you may be playing, not just football. I think once you get out of sports for good, you don't really have anybody that's, coaching you to, you know, really make you do things. So I would say really the hardest thing was for me once I was done. Um, and this is just like physical part was just working out. Like I didn't realize how hard it would be to motivate myself to want to work out again after I was done because the lifts in college were so hard. And I was like, I'm done with that. I'm about to just do cardio. And you start to see it. And that's one thing that kind of hits you afterwards. And I feel like a lot of athletes go through that afterwards and they kind of hit their point. They're like, they kind of figure it out as time goes. And then as far as just life after football, I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I really want to do with mine. I just turned 27 last week. There's still, I'm still reaching out, trying to train kids, start that, dive into the coaching aspect, just in the local area. But, it's just a hard thing to get into. But, there's just some things that, you love to do and you want to try to do. And that's just one of those things. Just trying to find out what you want to do afterwards can be a little challenging, but you'll figure it out at some point. And I think it's been pretty good.
Where are you located? Let everybody know so that those people who are looking to get their athletes trained in your area, we want to make sure that they have good access to you. And how can they contact you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on any of my social medias. And then I'm located right in Phoenix, Arizona. It's getting a little hot right now, though. Super hot in March, but all in the Phoenix area, anywhere surrounding. So reach out to me if you have anybody that wants to get some work in.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think that, when you look at the opportunities that you have based on your perspective and your experiences to impact young people, young athletes, and help them get ready for the next stage, I think that you have an incredible story to tell, having seen, success and adversity at the college level and in every type of way, and being at multiple levels of the game and seeing success at multiple levels of the game. I think that
Yeah.
that translates to a lot of young players and what they're going through with the way that the game has changed, right? And you kind of came along right on the cusp of the NIL and portal era really getting going.
Thank God.
It's rocket fuel now, right?
Yeah, it's
to where
crazy.
it's taken off now. And I think that your perspective can really add to them. What just, thoughts on how the game's evolving and what college football, how it stands now? Are you a fan of how you've seen it change? I mean, you were a part of it, like I said, in the kind of infancy of the way that it stands, but it continues to evolve, right?
Yeah. All four players getting paid, all of that. I think there needs to be a little bit of regulations. I don't know how we're gonna, get it under control in the NCAA, but I think it is getting a little bit out of control. Just being able to, openly have receipts of somebody just coming and literally just offering your player $1 million more and doing nothing about it when that used to be a big deal. It's just not anymore because money's involved. I think we should try to find a way to regulate it, but it's so hard when money's involved, and that's just with everything, really.
All right, let's look at the quarterbacks in the league. Who do you like and why? You talk about guys getting paid, and you talk about extra time. Obviously, Trinidad Chambliss is a name that is kind of at the forefront of that discussion. Looking at one more year in Oxford, this is it's going to be an interesting year at quarterback across the league. I think that a guy like Gunnar Stockton is somebody who flies under the radar at Georgia just because of the way that things get done there. Obviously, we mentioned what Chambliss did last year. Lane Kiffin and whoever he has at quarterback, and is always going to get some publicity. And then you have guys that maybe last year were really hyped and then didn't quite hit the mark, like an Arch Manning, who is poised to kind of take Texas to the next level, like a Lenore Sellers at South Carolina, who was maybe not in the best offensive system last year, but looking to kind of reset things under Kendall Briles. Who is it for you if you look across the league? Whose game do you love when we're looking at 2026?
I would say there's two, and I'd say you just mentioned them. I'd say one, obviously, Lenore's, one maybe in a South Carolina guy, and then one just watching him. Unbelievable build. You look at him built like Cam Newton. He just can run. He's super physical, and he runs hard when he runs the football. He doesn't just run to try to get yards. Like when he runs the football, he's running to either run through you and try to score, or he runs with physicality. And then he's shown. I think once he starts to show a little bit more consistency, I think he's going to be right back in those talks of top 3 quarterbacks going in the draft again. I think just this past year there was a little bit consistency with throwing the ball that kind of derailed the offense a little bit in some ways. But I think once he gets back consistent, with his mechanics, his footwork, I think Briles is tremendous as well. I think that'll also help. He's a super, super friendly player coach as well. He can really adapt to his players. Everywhere he's gone, that offense has improved immediately. And I think that's something that'll happen in Columbia as well. And then another guy like Arch too. Yeah, I know in social media people like to clown him a lot because he didn't play anybody coming out of high school, and then people just look for anything, because his last name's Manning. I think towards the beginning of the year he didn't play he didn't play very good football. But I think if you look towards the second half of the season, I would say he probably played some of the best, if not the best, football in the league, in the country, for real. He ended up finishing with, I think it was like 3,600 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 6 picks or something like that in his first year starting in the Southeastern Conference. Like that's pretty crazy. I think if you give him another year, another 2 years if he wants it, no telling how good he'll be as well. And then just another guy I think will be good. I know you mentioned Lane earlier. I think it's Sam Levitt's his quarterback, right? I think that's another guy.
Yep.
It's just LSU always has dogs on defense, skill positions. They always just need a quarterback. I think once they finally got a quarterback in Joe Burrow, opened up the entire offense. It was just amazing. Then same things with Jaden Daniels. I think in Levitt's freshman year, he showed signs of that, of something, what he could be. I think last year, he was hurt on and off, struggled a little bit, but I think in Baton Rouge, he's going to have a lot of talent around him where he's not going to have to feel like he's going to be a superhero. I think it's good. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people too.
I think that's a great point. And we've kind of been hesitant on Sam Levitt just based on what we saw out of him last year. But While I don't think he's Joe Burrow or Jaden Daniels, the pieces around him, yeah, they're loaded. It's a $40 million roster, right? There's a ton of talent. Can he choose to be an upper tier game manager of sorts in a Lane Kiffin offense? Can he do just enough to get them into the places where, LSU fans think that they're supposed to be? That is the question. All right, Jason, one more thing to get you out of here, because like I said before, there's a national audience here, and there's a lot of people watching, but in the heart of the Chief Sports Network are Gamecock fans. And so I know that some of them are tuning in, especially coming out of the late night Gamecock show, which precedes us on Sunday nights, and a parting of ways with the baseball coach this weekend. A lot of people are on the internet and buzzing right now in Gamecock Nation. Anything that you want to say to that fan base, or anything about, Shane Beamer that we want to hear here at on SEC Sunday night as we get you out of here?
Yeah, I would just say trust in Shane, man. He's a tremendous dude, and everything that you see and everything that you hear is, that comes from, a reliable source, I would say. Don't believe everything, but, trust in what you see in Shane, what he's telling you, trust in him. He's got what it takes to get it done. I've seen him work. I've seen, him be able to motivate a staff to be able to want to work, and some players, obviously, because I was one of those guys. Trust in him. He's going to be able to take us to where we need to go.
You got it. That's Jason Brown here, former South Carolina Gamecock quarterback. Jason, thanks so much for being with us. We look forward to getting you back when there's been actual football being played. It's spring football right now, and so we're all sitting around kind of twiddling our thumbs. As I will note, Florida back within one at the 8-minute mark here in the second half.
You counted out the Gators, Rob. Come on.
From a basketball standpoint, but we know that football makes the world go round around here, so we will look forward to getting you back when some of those guys that you mentioned have actually played real football on the field, where we can maybe grab a play or two and let you break it down for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks a lot. That's Jason Brown here with us on SEC Sunday Night. We'll be back in just a second, where Craig and I will pick Florida's schedule.
OTC is go. Thank you. Go. PTC is go. LPS is go. Houston flight is go. Pilot go. FTM is go. Safety com is go. STU is go. LRD is go. SRO is go. CDR is go. Launch director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
It's SEC Sunday Night, presented by Hewitt Diamodoris. Visit hdlawsc.com. It's go time.
It is SEC Sunday Night, and it is time for our segment brought to you by Freezing Cold Takes, where we pick the schedule. We're going to tee it up here, ladies and gents. We're going to tee it up. These are the Florida Gators picks. And Craig, I would just like to say, you doubted me, my friend. You doubted me. You doubted me. And here we are on schedule.
It's 9:03. 9:03.
Get out of here.
It's 9:03, not 9 o'clock.
We are here. All right. You want to kick us off? You want me to get us going? We got a couple of easy ones to start off with. Okay, so we'll
Can we just talk about that for a second? Like, I want to ask Ali about that. But like, we've traded USF and Miami for FAU and Campbell the last 2 years.
Yep.
Oh, I tell you, old Billy Boy and James Madison probably would have loved to have FAU and Campbell instead of USF and Miami. I've got John Summerall starting with 2 wins.
Yeah, I do too. And that's what I was going to say. I think that we can start off confidently saying 2 wins here with FAU and Campbell. So Florida's starting 2-0. Then it gets a little interesting, Craig. Then we have a stretch of Auburn, Ole Miss, and Mizzou.
Yep.
And I will say here, I have 3 losses. I'm not revealing anything new by saying that I think they're going to lose to Auburn, because we covered Auburn last week and I already picked that game, right? So I have them losing to Auburn. You have them beating Auburn.
I do.
Which we already knew. Now the other 2, is something interesting. Ole Miss and Mizzou, I've got losses on both of those. Your thoughts on that span of 3 games?
So first question I have to ask is ESPN put that Auburn Florida game. Is that a night game? I kind of feel like there's some hype around that. I know SEC Nation will probably be there. You've got 2 new SEC coaches relatively early in the season. Is that a night game? Is that 11 a.m. kicks? That Jefferson Pilot special?
Yeah, I think that you have to look around at what else we have going on that weekend, right? But so far in the schedules that we've previewed, there's nothing that will beat that matchup. Arkansas and Georgia's not going to do it. Mississippi State and South Carolina's not going to do it. So you look across the league, that's week 3. We're starting to heat up. You're going to need something, but here's the thing, Craig, is that as we've seen the changes in how we're slotting these TV games, we talked about this ad nauseum, but I can talk about this all day, every day, right? Like slot 1 is 3:30 on ABC. Is it? I think it is.
I don't think I think your 7 Central game has now replaced the 3:30 game. I think your 3:30 game is now number 2 on the ESPN slot.
Is that in your, like, from your viewing perspective? Or are you saying you think ESPN is viewing it as
ESPN is viewing that way? I think they want to put the prime SEC game at night.
Okay.
And then they want to put something decent at 3. They're going to put a good game. And now with 9 conference games, you have a lot of really good options. But I think that's like a 2 or 2B slot now is a 3:30, where 3:30, 2:30 on CBS used to be that primetime game. It's now that night game because who do you got there?
Don't try to switch up your time zone in the middle of talking about it when you've said 3:30 multiple times and then you just switched it to 2:30.
Don't use facts to ruin a good argument. No, but you look at it because Herb Street and Fowler are always there, almost always there at the night game, outside of like Red River.
Yep.
They're there, and to be honest, like that's what's going to lead the dog on this one. So to me, like that's going to be that game, and they always have a really good, usually a 6:30 Central kick. Usually a pretty good appetizer, just like a 2A 2B game. So
okay, and
I still have Florida winning this one, close.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing I was going to say is that the noon slot has become the clear 3. Because noon on ABC is now because of the switch over, and it's no longer CBS, because now we're on the ESPN family of networks in terms of the SEC contract in full.
Yep.
That I think that you have the 7 and the 3:30, 1 and 2. We can argue back and forth, but noon has become the clear 3.
Well, they want the button or the remote to go on ABC at noon.
And stay
and not go off until 11 o'clock at night.
Yep. And
just keeping it.
And honestly, it's kind of working. And that I think that then makes the 7:30 or whatever
6:30
ESPN game at night, whatever time it is, 7, 7:30, 8, whatever it slots in, has now become the 4 slot.
Yep.
Okay. So we have Auburn as a disagreement, but then we both have them losing to Ole Miss and Mizzou. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Even though we know what happened 2 years ago when Ole Miss went to the Swamp, but yes, I think they're going to lose that one.
All right, week 6, they're hosting South Carolina, and we've already picked this game, so there's not a whole lot of mystery and intrigue here.
Did you skip Missouri?
I thought I said Ole Miss and Missouri that we had losses on both of those, right?
Oh yeah, we do have. I am so sorry. I need to listen better. I need to be a better listener for you.
Okay. Gamecocks come to town. Thank you, Mr. McMichael. Gamecocks come to town week 6. I have the Gators winning that game.
Homecoming for the Gators. Homecoming, South Carolina coming to town. I've got the Gators with the big win here.
Okay, so then they have to go to Texas, and I think this is where we see things start to shift again a little bit. And to be honest with you, Craig, as we look at this, if they start 2-0 and then they go on a 3-game skid, there's a chance that we have a different outcome with that South Carolina-Florida game where we both picked them to beat South Carolina. But if Florida is on a 2 or 3-game losing streak and the Gamecocks come in hot, which, by the way, I'll remind you, South Carolina's schedule leading up to that game Kent State, Towson, Mississippi State at home, at Alabama, and then Kentucky at home, you could have easily a 4-1 Gamecocks team there. The confidence has been a theme around Columbia this weekend with the baseball team. I'm sticking to my guns here, and we both say Florida's going to win that game. At the Swamp, it's interesting. Year one under Summerall and Buster Faulkner, but confidence could play a factor if one team is riding on some wins and the other one is on a skid. Speaking of skids, here comes a few. At Texas, I'm going with the Horns. You?
Hook 'em, baby. Arch takes care of business.
We're going to reveal some things about ourselves before we get to those big boy schedules of teams that were really good last year and have high expectations this year.
Yep.
A bye week will allow them to breathe, and then the cocktail party against Georgia is right after that. Your thoughts there about the Dogs?
Looking forward to my Azalea cocktail with the Masters 2 weeks around, and the Gators will need a cocktail after this one because I have the Dogs winning that one.
I do as well. Gators may need a cocktail after this nail biter of a basketball game, but they have taken the lead up 2 with 5 minutes remaining in the game. So when it seemed like things were slipping, Todd Golden and his national championship confidence have boosted this Gators team back in front of Iowa as they are looking to extend the lead here with approaching 4 minutes left in the game. Okay. After Georgia, they host Oklahoma. I have them losing that game to the Sooners. Your thoughts?
Not so fast, my friend. Who's going to be the quarterback for Oklahoma this year?
John Mateer.
Well, we think maybe unless he hurts his hand again or something.
Correct.
Like that.
And we've both mentioned that.
We both mentioned that this is also week 10. This is later in the season. It's not like first couple weeks. So let's go John Summerall. Beat the Boomer Soomers.
This got us last year where we lacked confidence in Oklahoma. And
yeah, we were right.
They made it to the college football playoff.
They did not deserve to make it to the college football playoff, and they got clowned by Alabama after being up like 18-0.
But we picked them to be a borderline bowl team, so we were wrong.
I think we were closer. Because they were dog poo poo. I will just say I'll keep it clean for the families on it, for the little kids watching. But Oklahoma was brutal by the end of the year.
Lots of little kids at 9-12 p.m. Eastern.
Maybe
our West Coast fans. Families watching over dinner here. Florida's got to go to Kentucky in week 11, and I think they can get it done against the Cats. I'll just out myself. I'm not high on Kentucky, although some people like you may be.
What does that mean? Some people like you? That's like a you people comment.
That probably needed a little better presentation.
Yeah, probably needed.
I think
I'm not a good listener. Now you're calling me names. I feel like we need
a bigger pause. I just meant some people,
some people
like you.
Some people, moron like you,
are high on Kentucky. What do you?
Kroger Field has been very difficult and not been kind to the Gators. Kentucky's going to have a lot of excitement there. They've got a new coach coming in. John Summerall's going to come in and take the hammer down and show the Gators that they're on top of the Wildcats.
The belief is there. Okay, then Vanderbilt will be the next one.
Vanderbilt's a clown.
I want to say hello to our friend Craig Godwin here, the Craiger, as he is affectionately called on all ITG programs. He says Mateer is too Brett Favre. Every throw has to be a show-off throw. That's also true, Craig. That's also a great point. He is gunslinger wild, and he may or may not be playing at that point in the season, which has been our point all along. Okay, so we have them beating Kentucky, then Vanderbilt. We're going 2 wins here.
Yeah, on the spreadsheet, by the way, someone spelled it Vanderlit, not Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I don't know who typed those out. I won't call you out, but I think that you put the schedule in this week.
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt's going to be like 0-12 this year. So yeah, they will be losing that game. Enjoy your money, quarterback kid.
And then finally, the Gators go to Tallahassee to play Florida State, who is a wild card and a half for me this year. Just an absolute wild card and a half. I don't know that I believe in Norvell under the current circumstances to overcome the pressure, because if if they drop a few games early in the first half of the year, Florida State, I mean, do those guys already start looking at the portal? Is that where we are in terms of what happens to Florida State? I think Florida State has talent, and I think Norvell has proven that he can put guys in the right positions to win if he has all the right pieces. And I think that he has them. Things have just gone really weird for them in the past couple of years. And once that snowball starts to roll, sometimes it can't be reeled in. I don't think Mike Norvell is a bad football coach, because we've seen him have success at Memphis. We saw him go 13-0 with Jordan Travis. And maybe that's been the missing piece, is he hasn't had that superstar quarterback that we didn't realize Jordan Travis was until they got left out of the playoffs because he broke his leg. And then looking back, he was really, really dynamic. I'm picking Florida in this game because I think at the end of the year, if I have to bet on one team to be more bought in than the other, I'm going to go with the Gators over the Noles.
Yeah, I think at some point this summer we're going to have to bring in our buddy FSU 3 times on Twitter, because Florida State's just like an interesting conversation. They are like SEC wannabe. I won't even call them SEC adjacent. I don't think Norvell has ever been a good fit at Florida State. Yes, they had the 13-0 year. And to me, that's more the anomaly. Whether it was Jordan Travis or not, I remember talking to Casey quite a bit about Jordan Travis ever being good at anything throwing the ball. But I just don't feel Norvell has ever been a great fit in Tallahassee. I feel like that is just going to get worse than it was this year. And again, I'm going with the Fighting John Summeralls to come in to Doak Walker and silence the war chant.
Okay, so I have Florida at 6-6, which would not meet Ali's minimum number. You have them hitting it on the head at 8-4.
Winner, chicken dinner. Allie and I did not go together on those picks. We had, she was not looking at my board when she saw that. We totally were separate on that one. So
it'll be interesting, I think, to see how we wrap some of this up, because everybody that we've talked to in terms of where does this team need to be to define success? My favorite question, shout out to Andy Staples and friend of the show, Ari Wasserman, who we love so dearly, who
send him a Christmas card.
Are using that phrase, defining success, that we've been using to make our way around the SEC here in the spring. The expectations, Craig, are relatively high everywhere that we've stopped so far. Okay,
and we're in the bottom. We're in the bottom rung.
When we've asked this question, we've gotten high expectations just about everywhere. Higher than where we have these teams falling. I don't know that we've had a single team yet that we have hitting the mark of where the media member that we had on said they needed to be.
Until today.
That's true. And you know what, Craig? Last week, we both ended up some kind of way high on Auburn again. So maybe we would have been there. The world may never know. We'll call Blaine.
Hugh's gone, Blaine, so maybe we feel better.
Find out.
Maybe we feel. Nah, I'm not calling them. Nope.
All right.
Won't answer.
This one last thing before we get out of here tonight. As we watch the NCAA tournament, Florida and Iowa tied at 66, 3 minutes and 23 seconds left, and Thomas Houck is at the line and delivers to put the Gators up 1. Lots of fun stuff happening this weekend, Craig. I don't know about your situation and how you've been watching or what you've been watching, and we'll leave lacrosse out of one episode perhaps. But Thursday,
already talked about it earlier with Duke.
Thursday at noon, I was setting up at 11, I was setting up my second screen in the living room to have it set for the entirety of the weekend, so that I could do one full screen and one quad box, and bumped it and knocked it over, broke the screen.
Rookie move.
Had to go get another TV for my second screen. Good news is we're able to upgrade and have a little bit of a bigger second screen. So that was a happy accident. But I just love to watch this tournament because of all the craziness. And yes, I love the upsets, and I love brackets, and I love competing, and I love the fact that, my bracket has done okay, and your bracket has found its way out of the basement, and high five JC on
over JC's bracket. Take it, Sherbert.
But I don't know that there's anything that pulls me in more than just the crazy finishes. Some people would say, though, Craig, that it's the Cinderella stories. You pointed out a couple of articles, one from Dan Wolkin, and we want to look at both of those here now. Asking the question about Cinderellas: Are they dead? Is it over, or has the landscape just shifted to create a different path for the Cinderella? Your thoughts from both of those articles as they kind of present opposing viewpoints here in the NCAA tournament.
So I don't think either one said that Cinderellas are truly dead, but they've talked about how the landscape of college basketball has made Cinderella more difficult. Dan Wolkin did an excellent job. He talked about how conference realignment has really impacted, and he had a really good example in his article. He said 4 years ago in 2022, we had one of the craziest tournaments ever. Here were the Ken Pom averages. 15 seeds were 140, 14 was 134, 13 seeds 83, 12 seeds were 61. In that tournament, the 15 seed won a first-round game, 2 12s won a first round, and the 4 through 13 games were decided by a total of 18 points. Contrast that with this season, it's a totally different story. The 15 seeds now, Ken Pom rating, has gone from 140 to 179. The 14s are from 142. They were down from 134. The 13 seed went from 83 to 113, and the 12 seed went from 61 to 76. So those Ken Pom ratings talk about, like where those rankings are. And because of conference realignment, not only at the SEC and the Big Ten level, but also at those mid-major levels, it started to widen the gap out a little bit. And I thought that was interesting. Jeff Eisenberg did a really good job talking about how NIL and the transfer portal have impacted these mid-majors. The teams like Butler that we used to know about, Gonzaga that we used to look at and we used to cheer for, they were good because, like Miami this year, they were an old roster. They were like Indiana. They had an older roster. They were able to dominate those one and dones. But now you have SEC coaches going to, a tournament where Queens College is playing and they're sitting right behind the bench and they're basically, wearing their jersey. It's like they're scouting a high school game. And it's made it, really difficult. And they're talking about how NIL and the transfer portal, where it's really difficult for a mid-major to keep that core together to make it more, to really make it so that they're an older team. And I think that is the interesting part, is that both of these guys have really good points. These guys are better journalists than I could even think about, have done really good research. And it's just made Cinderella more difficult. We love Cinderella, as Rob's always said. We love Cinderella week 1, not as much week 2, week 3, but we love Cinderella week 1. But we've seen the task of Cinderella become much more difficult. There's been so much high point love over the last few weeks because they're a 12 seed. But they also have their fancy dining rooms and all that stuff. And I think that's the interesting part. Cinderella's not dead, but that shoe is getting harder and harder to find.
I think that the path has just changed, and I love the research, and you did a great job of kind of pitting those two articles as presenting a little bit of a different viewpoint and helping us find a way to really look at this. The first thing that I want to say is the narrative that March Madness in and of itself is dead is absolutely a ludicrous statement to make. I think that it's thriving. I think that the makeup of it has changed in a little bit of a way because we are seeing less. The past couple of years, it's been harder for some of these mid-majors to break through. But I think this is just a temporary swing as we look at mid-majors adjusting in the same way that you just said that the power coaches are sitting at a mid-major tournament and pulling guys off those rosters, which keeps them from having the longevity. They can still have older players because it just creates a tier system, Craig, where the coaches of a mid-major team like a Butler or like a Queens College or a High Point, where they're looking at rosters at the level that is quote unquote right below them and then stealing guys off of that. In the same way that we see a tier system in Major League Baseball, in the minor leagues, to work your way up to the big leagues, we've seen this come into the college baseball system as well, where guys are going to go to a smaller school for a year, get looked at, work their way up, We've obviously seen it in football, maybe not as mainstream, but there's been more kind of power to power transfers, but a lot of good evaluations. The NFL has done this for years. They found Jerry Rice at Mississippi Valley State. If you're good enough, they will find you. And so when I look at power teams pulling from the mid-majors, the solution is just for mid-majors to look and pull kids from the next level down, whether that's a D2 school or so on and so forth, or from each other, right? Like maybe somebody who had a breakout year, but you're a more prominent mid-major school who's going to be able to pull one of those guys over. The path looks different, but can those rosters still have older, experienced players who have had success at the college level? Yes. Those coaches at the mid-major level just have to adjust in the same way the power coaches have adjusted. When the game changes, you shift and you move a little bit, but we will continue to see those mid-major teams be competitive where they have coaches that make the adjustment to how the game is currently constructed. The makeup of the tournament is such that we're always going to have these mid-major teams getting in, and I do not foresee a day where they just all get blasted on the first weekend and they're all out of it. In fact, we didn't even see that this time. We were a shot or two away from really not even being able to have this is Cinderella dead conversation. Santa Clara
bracket could have been okay then.
The Santa Clara against Kentucky. Kentucky needs a miracle to get it to overtime to win that game. We saw Siena and Duke, right? Almost a 16-1 where Duke really had to button down and still only won it by single digits in the second half there. Obviously, High Point made the run and got it done in the first game, and then took Arkansas absolutely to the wire in the next game. I can go on and on. There's 4 or 5 different examples here where teams were able to throw a really good punch, and there's a shot or two somewhere in that last quarter of the game that caused it to separate and then get to free throws, and you end up having an 8 to 10 to 12 point differential at the end. But if teams are able to hit shots on the final 5 or 6 possessions, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6 of those last possessions, instead of 2 or 3 out of those last 5 or 6 possessions, then you're going to see a little bit more madness. Shots just didn't fall for some of these schools in the way they needed them to. And that's okay. That doesn't mean Cinderellas are dead. It just means things kind of are leaning in the way of the power teams right now. But I think that pendulum continues to swing back and forth, and we will find balance on the scales in years to come. There it is.
My balance. Love it.
All right, Craig. We are coming to the end of our time here on SEC Sunday Night, but I want to point out to everybody, Florida is up 71-70 against Iowa with 8.9 seconds remaining in the basketball game. Iowa with a drive and a foul,
and boom goes the dynamite
on the rebound. Florida now at the line. So Isaiah Brown, 75% free throw shooter with the ability to make this a 3-point game. He cannot connect on the first free throw. Craig, you know, as you look at the first couple of rounds here, and I'm going to stay on the air for the next 60 seconds while this game finishes up. The SEC has been impressive. Does this quiet the narrative that the league was down this year?
I think it comes down. I think it comes down to champions. If Florida or Arkansas and the league can repeat as national champions, I think it'll quiet the narrative. But just like in football, where you've had 3 Big Ten teams, Ohio State, Michigan, and Indiana win national championships, you have to win the national championship. And I know that, you know, there's been disagreement over that. But at the end of the day, it's all about the trophies. And that's what's going to matter the most.
I'm going to actually push back a little bit, and I'm going to say that it's going to matter from round to round. I think if you have a substantial number of Sweet 16 teams, and then you don't have everybody get chopped at one point. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like, I think if they can run their way out and get teams into the Final Four, where you have teams in Texas and Arkansas and now Tennessee in the Sweet 16. If Florida is able to close this out here, then you're at 4. That's a quarter of the Sweet 16, and we still have Alabama to go. Could you have more than a quarter of the Sweet 16? And then can you get 3 out of those 5 or 6 to win and go to the Elite Eight? If you're 3 out of 8 in the Elite Eight, then you are the premier conference, I think, in college basketball. If you get one team to the Final Four, I think that we can make the argument this year, Craig, that it's exactly what we've said all year.
I think you need 2. So I think you need 2 in the final.
I can see that.
I think 2, because I'm going to ask you who was in the Elite Eight last year.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm not saying that to be mean or be a jerk, right. But I'm just saying it's like you need at least 2 in the Final Four, and then you need to be dancing for you got to be on the dance card for the national championship.
Here's the interesting thing about the tournament. Iowa inbounds the ball down 2, corner 3 for the Hawkeyes, and it goes. 3.9 seconds left. Florida is down 1 now to inbound the ball. What a possession for the Hawkeyes. What a possession for the Hawkeyes.
Ali just tweeted out, this team is going to give me a heart attack. Someone check in on her, make sure she's okay.
Yeah, I mean, this has been one of those games, Craig, where the madness is just so much fun to watch. Here's what I was going to say about how we evaluate teams. Yeah, I mean, not many people are going to be able to tell you who the Elite Eight teams were last year, but if you look at a coach and you say that's the evaluation point, right? How many
Tom Izzo? Tom Izzo's the evaluation point, because Tom Izzo doesn't have the national championships, but his record on playing that second game on short rest, number of elite, number of Elite Eights,
316s, how many Elite Eights, how many Final Fours. Of course, national championships is a measure of success for coaches, but you're going to have, but each one of those things matters. I think we see that starting to creep into football as well, Craig, where nobody's going to be able to tell you all 12 teams from the college football playoff, but if you have a guy like a Dan Lanning, for example, who says, "Hey, I've been in the top 6, or I've been in the top 4. I've made this many college football playoffs. We've been in. If we're a few years out, and Dan Lanning says, I've been to 5 college football playoffs, and I've been in the Final Four 3 times. That's going to be a significant way of evaluating the success. And
that's an interesting choice you make in Dan Lanning, who's gotten blown out in both of his bowl games.
Well, and that's kind of why I made the choice too. And you have to pick somebody who hasn't won a national championship, I think, when kind of thinking in that vein.
Where's Kalen DeBoer at then? So Kalen DeBoer's got a national championship appearance. He's got a quarterfinal appearance. Who wants to forget the quarterfinal appearance, but that national championship appearance is pretty good.
And that's why I continue to be high on Kalen DeBoer for that exact point. People want to flush that.
Go ahead and throw that back into me when we talk about Alabama and I'm hard on them.
It's just not easy to do what he's done there. And there's a lot of schools that is the quintessential. The expectations are out of whack because Nick Saban was there.
Yep.
There's a lot. Most other schools in the SEC would take that track record, to include Texas and LSU right now, considering where they've been the past couple of years. And we're seeing Sark pull even in that, right? But
Sark's right there. Sark's been to the semis two out of the last 3 years. I think that's important. But again, I think you also look at what's the narrative around the SEC. 2 years now, you haven't won a national championship. You weren't even playing for a national championship. So to me, that's why I look at that barometer. The Final Four is kind of is that idea of playing for it.
All right, here we go. They've put a little extra time on the clock. 4.
Come on, give us your best play-by-play.
4.5 seconds. Florida is down 73-71. Inbound the ball to Xavier Lear, cross half court. He's driving towards the bucket and not able to get a shot off, and the Gators go down. This is SEC Sunday night.
Down goes Gators. Down goes Gators.
I'm Rob Williams. He's Craig McMichael. We're proudly presented by Hewitt Damaduras Law, and we will see you next time. Shout out to Ali Peak. Shout out to Jason Brown, and of course our good friend Casey Cregan from the Message Board Genius Podcast. Thanks, MVG. Thanks, Freezing Cold Takes, and we'll see you next time.